Why do we feel like we have no time for wisdom, yet somehow always find time for anxiety? That question alone confronts us with an uncomfortable truth. We're living in a world where the mind runs, but the heart drags behind, where our schedules are full, but our souls are empty, where we spend hours on screens, but mere seconds in silence. It seems all our time is swallowed by notifications, obligations, and anxious thoughts. And in the middle of it all, wisdom becomes a luxury we keep postponing. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps, wrote that humans don't need more time, they need meaning. Where there is purpose, time adjusts, molds, and fits. Because when we know the why, we find the how. But when we're lost in distractions, even minutes become our enemies. Picture a glass filled to the brim with sand. Now try pouring water into it. It won't go in. It spills over the edges. That's what a cluttered mind is like. The more noise and irrelevant stimuli it's packed with, the less space there is for what truly transforms. The problem isn't lack of time. It's excess clutter. Absorbing wisdom doesn't require more time. It requires intention. It requires a filter. It's not about adding more, it's about removing what's taking up too much. Today, I want to show you that it's possible to live with wisdom even on your busiest days. And not through impossible rituals, magic formulas, or heavy rules, but through simple choices that change everything. Through new ways of seeing what you already live. Because maybe the wisdom you've been searching for is already trying to speak to you in the margins of your everyday life.
1. Attention. Your routine is programming your soul without you even noticing. There's a kind of programming happening behind the scenes of your life, and it's not in the code of some software, it's in the code of your soul. While you brush your teeth, listening to the news, scroll through your feed before bed, or overhear conversations on the bus, your mind is being shaped. A thought here, an emotion there, and before you realize it, your soul starts running on patterns you never consciously chose. The human mind is like soil. If you plant nothing, weeds grow on their own. If you don't filter what comes in, anything will find a home. And the things that grow most easily are the thorns of superficiality, comparison, hurry, and fear. Wisdom doesn't vanish because we lack books. It vanishes because we're drowning in distractions. We're surrounded by content, but starving for depth. Our conversations revolve around what's trending, not what's eternal. We're constantly absorbing stimuli, and most of it has no real value, yet leaves behind emotional residue that numbs us. That's why we need something deeper than just putting down the phone or cutting screen time. We need spiritual mental hygiene, a simple, daily, intentional process that helps us clear the excess, quiet the noise, and make room for what carries the weight of eternity. Because wisdom doesn't scream, it whispers. And if your mind is too full, you won't hear it.
2. The silent mistake, confusing wisdom with information. We live in an age where knowing is easy. At any moment, you can listen to a lecture, open a devotional, watch a sermon, or save a Bible verse. But knowing is not the same as being. And that's what many people still haven't realized. There's a deep difference between information and wisdom. Information reaches the ears. Wisdom shapes decisions. And the difference lies in digestion. Yes, mental digestion. Just like a body is only nourished by what it can process, your mind and spirit are only strengthened by what they can absorb and apply. The Apostle James was clear, "Be doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves." It's possible to be surrounded by truth and still walk in circles, to hear advice, sermons, and messages daily and still keep repeating harmful behaviors, still making the same foolish decisions. Imagine someone spending the whole day hearing deep teachings about forgiveness, but by the end of the day, still holding on to bitterness. That person doesn't need more content. They need an internal confrontation, a moment of reflective silence, a real decision. Wisdom doesn't live in what passes through your mind. It lives in what enters your heart and becomes action. Without application, there's no transformation, only stimulation. And an overstimulated soul is not a wise soul, it's an exhausted one. In a world of loud voices, absorbing wisdom is an act of humility and practice. It's not about how much you hear, it's about how much you live.
4. Wisdom doesn't enter by obligation, it enters through thirst. There's a striking difference between someone who seeks wisdom out of need and someone who truly longs for it. The first is often just trying to ease a moment of pain. The second is a hunger born from the soul. And God responds to thirst, not to hurry. There's a deep spiritual principle here. Heaven does not force itself where it's not wanted. Wisdom is a gift that only descends where there is space and longing. Often, what looks like exhaustion in our routine isn't physical tiredness, it's a heart that has grown used to distraction, without presence, without hunger, without focus. Proverbs 2 says we should seek wisdom like someone searching for hidden treasure. That's not just poetic language. It's a description of the posture that transforms. The one who digs day after day, even without finding gold right away, will one day uncover something that changes everything. But here's the question that needs to be asked honestly. Are you truly thirsty for wisdom, or just frustrated that you don't have ready-made answers? Many want to hear God, but don't want to be still enough to listen. They want direction, but avoid confrontation. They want light, but remain in foggy places. And wisdom, like water, cannot fill an upside-down cup. There must be thirst. There must be receptiveness. God doesn't force wisdom on anyone. He plants seeds where the soil is ready. And fertile soil is a heart that longs, that seeks, that asks, not out of obligation, but out of love for what is true. 5. Turn ordinary moments into gateways of wisdom. Many believe that wisdom can only be absorbed in sacred, solemn, set-apart moments. But one of the greatest spiritual losses of modern life is failing to see the hidden potential in the seemingly mundane spaces of the day. In the shower, in traffic, while doing the dishes, on the way to work. These aren't just gaps between real life. They're the very stage where life unfolds. And in these spaces, there's room for wisdom, room for presence, room for revelation. The difference isn't in how much time you have, but in how you see the time you have. It's like a lens. The issue isn't where you are, but how you perceive the place you're in. If the heart is awake, even a single second becomes fertile ground. Listening to a chapter from Proverbs while driving can shape your mind more than hours of digital distraction. Walking with one verse in your thoughts can rewire your soul more deeply than rushing through a dozen readings. Reflecting on a spiritual truth before bed can purify the emotional residue of your day. Wisdom doesn't crash in, it reveals itself in the everyday, but only to those who look with intention. It's an inward choice to redeem moments that would otherwise be dismissed and use them as stepping stones for inner growth. The truth is,
It's not a lack of time that keeps us from wisdom. It's a lack of intention within the time we already have. It's possible to be surrounded by opportunities to grow and still spend the whole day on autopilot. But those who awaken to God's presence in the ordinary turn the ordinary into sacred ground.
Wisdom isn't a prize reserved for monks in retreat or scholars with free time. It's the invisible shield of those who walk with purpose in the midst of chaos. And more than that, it's the quiet fuel of those who choose to live from the inside out, even when everything around them screams for speed. C.S. Lewis reminds us of a deep truth. You don't have a soul. You are a soul. You have a body. That changes everything. Because if the center of your existence isn't material, then your most urgent nourishment isn't either. Feeding your soul with wisdom isn't a luxury, it's spiritual survival. Picture an umbrella in the middle of a storm. It doesn't stop the rain, but it keeps everything in you from being drenched. Wisdom is that spiritual umbrella. It doesn't erase your problems, but it protects your essence from the corrosion of anxiety, fear, and hurry. On busy days, it's easy to think that time is what's missing. But maybe what's really missing isn't time, it's intention. Maybe it's not about adding more hours, but adding more meaning to the hours you already have. And what if, instead of chasing time, you began walking with wisdom? That one choice changes everything, even if the world outside stays the same.